Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, we get into a Joey Maguire self-scout of the Red Raiders, and one of his offensive linemen told him to do what with the damn ball?
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right. Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
Great to see you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. And thanks to those making us their first listen on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, here we are back again to wrap up the week and then get busy at Jones Stadium as the Red Raiders are welcoming to town Dana Holgorsen and the Houston Cougars. We'll get to that. And of course, what else is going down in the Big 12 Conference coming up. Also want to hear from the aforementioned Dana Holgorsen. Clearly ties to the program, ties to the area, ties to the quarterback, or vice versa. And we'll hear from Coach Holgorsen on his most recent return. But Chris, of course, fresh off of his Thursday night conversation with Red Raider head coach Joey Maguire. And I know, Chris, when you're 1-3, and you're probably doing this if you're 3-1 or 4-0, but particularly when you're 1-3, there's some internal surveying happening, some self-reflection, or a self-scout. I know that was one of many things you and Coach McGuire talked about last night.
Yeah, he had mentioned this earlier in the week, so I wanted to ask him more about it. I think they looked at their 4 games, they compared them to the first 4 games last year, and you do a different, and you can glean a lot of things out of that. I think you can probably put too much on some stuff and not enough on others. It just depends on what you're trying to get out of it, if there's anything glaring that shows up. But I think one of the things that he said he told both coordinators of his, he goes, coordinators, they fall in love with certain things that they really like or really like to do. And it's their, he was told a story about when he was coaching high school about one of his coordinators had some kind of gadget play that he just loved it. They called it one time and it was a disaster. And so he put a note in and taped it up on his desk. It was like, never call, I think Miami Sideline was the name of the play. It's like, never call Miami Sideline again. Love Joey. And he was like, so he's like, so we can glean some things from that. And he goes, if there's things that we're trying to do on either side in certain situations, whatever, and it's not working, throw it out, throw it out. And he didn't get into specifics there, but I believe that there's some of that that they were able to somewhat determine, in like certain plays versus certain, like on defense, like this call versus this kind of personnel group on this time of the field. I mean, there's a lot of analytics and a lot of things and percentages and numbers you can play with, but I think it was a good thing. I will tell you too, and we'll kind of morph into he was asked about, hey, who are your best players? So I think a little boy asked him, who is your best player on offense and best player on defense? We had already talked about Taj Brooks, and Joey had already said at this point in the show, right now, Taj Brooks is our best guy on offense. And so I knew that. I was curious what he would say on defense. However, he and Kenny Perry on the show, both, and obviously Kenny coaches Taj, they both said twofold. One, I wish he would have had 28 to maybe 30 carries last week. Yeah, I think that after we went back and looked at it, there were certain situations where it would have been smarter. They were giving us the run. We should have taken it. I think there was late in the game where there was some one-on-one situations on the outside that runs were called and it got checked out into a pass, things like that. But they also, both of them, very cognizant of it. I watched this and it made me remember it. They have to take care of Taj because I think that people just assume that he's just getting a workload when he carries the football. He took a pop on a blitz pickup last week, I want to say early in the 4th, and he came away, and you could tell he was kind of like, whoa, like that was a car crash. So he's taking collisions, not just when he's carrying the football. And so I think they both indicated, Joey and Kenny, we have got to get Nehemiah Martinez and Camron Valdez. We have to get them in because Taj simply cannot hold. maybe he can get away with this kind of workload for a few games here and there. At some point, though, we will see him start to deteriorate later in October, early November. You just simply can't take the punishment. And as much as he can dish out, he's taken a lot too on those blitz pickups, because it's just hey man, I'm going to rock up, and I mean we're going to, and much less getting tackled when he's carrying the ball. So I thought that was interesting as they kind of analyzed their situation and maybe their best player on offense. I will tell you too that Caleb Rogers, your starting right tackle, if you are aware of him or know him, he's got quite the personality. If you remember back, I guess was it the Texas game last year where he kind of he got in the middle of somebody after one of those field goals, and he went and told them about it. I mean, he's just he bounces around. He's loud and boisterous. Well, he walked up to Joey Maguire, according to Joey, multiple times this week, and he's like, "Coach, run the damn ball." And I said to Joey, I was like, one, it's not shocking whatsoever that Caleb had an opinion or voiced it to you, because that's just who he is. He's just kind of outspoken, and he kind of has got the gift of gab, man. But that's kind of the mindset. I will tell you about Nehemiah is that he was kind of a hybrid in the spring. I think he was going to come into the spring as or come into the fall based off the spring as like one of those guys that maybe was going to get the first nod at backup running back if Camron Valdez couldn't get healthy, just because, and he was really good, and he was really good in high school. I watched that, personally at Lubbock Cooper in his senior year. And but I think Camron Valdez is such a tease to this point, because they will all tell you it's a different gear. It's a different running style. It's a different complement. And man, we think it could be really good, but he just can't get healthy. And maybe now, I feel like we've spent way too much time talking about him in that he hadn't done a whole lot, but you're just kind of you're betting on the come, to use a craps reference, and I think he's again, I think you've seen just glimpses here and there, and I know enough to know in practices when he has been right. I think people will like what they see, but until he gets on track and kind of out of the starting gate there, it's just kind of a dream scenario, I guess. But maybe that's tomorrow. So, and we'll see if they quote unquote run the damn ball. I just get the sense you were 22nd in the country for all the gnashing of teeth about your offense and all that. Last year I think you averaged 34 points a game. You were 22nd in the country, I think, in total offense or points per game or whatever. This year, I think what we're seeing, because you mentioned the tight ends who are both compromised right now.
Yes,
as we talked about. I think this is just going to be more of a grind right now. I think that's just the sense that I get. And so you're looking for any kind of advantage you can get, maybe more of a gadget, maybe, lean. I don't know. But until you kind of get on track, I think this is going to be more of a grind. And, maybe you're going to have to, 27 points is going to have to win games. 24 points is going to have to win games, maybe 31 points. You can't expect to score, with the way your group is compromised and the way that they're playing. And now you've got a quarterback one play away. You've got, tight end issues injury-wise. You've got, I think, an offensive line issue that is steadily improving, playing a bit better, but hadn't spent a lot of time together. So, and maybe one day it clicks. Maybe this is tomorrow. I don't know. We shall see.
Yeah, and the offensive line thing, I still just I'm not rolling my dice many times a game in pass protection, but I do feel like when they're moving forward in run blocking that they are at their best, whatever that looks like. I don't know if it's pretty or not, but they are at their best. And listen, audience, what does my tombstone say? I've said it before. These big boys like to move forward as opposed to go back. And I even went ahead and got one chiseled up just to be ready. My wife's been giving me that side eye a little bit. I don't know what's going on. She loves these murder podcasts too. So I just went ahead and got one ready. It's over here. You can't see it off camera, but it says these big boys like to move forward, not backward. So let them eat. And I'm glad Caleb Rogers got my message via carrier pigeon. So that was delivered to the head coach. We'll see the response. Speaking of head coaches, Chris, a familiar one on the opposite sideline. First, today's episode brought to you by Nutrafol. And I know that men think losing their hair is inevitable, and maybe that's because 80% of men will experience thinning hair in their lifetime. It is normal, but it doesn't have to be your destiny, and you can get ahead of the thinning and take control of your hair's future with Nutrafol's science-backed hair growth supplement for men right now. It's a leading hair growth supplement. Nutrafol is helping improve growth, visible thickness, and visible scalp coverage through physician-formulated natural ingredients, and their drug-free and patented technology provides consistent and reliable results without compromising your health or stamina. And you're going to need plenty of energy because your dance card's going to stay full with a revitalized coif. So head on over to Nutrafol.com/men to take their hair health wellness quiz so you can identify causes and get a personalized plan for better hair health through whole body wellness. Take the first step to visibly thicker and healthier hair at Nutrafol.com/men. And now for a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our audience $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men and enter the promo code LOCKEDON College. That's Nutrafol.com/men and enter the promo code LOCKEDON and find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Speaking of head coaches, Chris, a familiar one on the opposite sideline in that, afternoon West Texas sun there on the eastern side. Skullet season under the sun is always a special time as Dana Holgorsen and company come back to town. We've talked about some of the familiarity, obviously, with his quarterback, and you will hear Dana Holgorsen mention Donovan Smith coming up here, but also mentioning just the sheer number of times that he's been back in Lubbock, which kind of blew my mind. How much time can pass and how quickly it always happens, Chris. Here is a familiar voice to us all in Houston head coach Dana Holgorsen.
I spent 8 years there and have, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think this is my 7th or 8th time back there. You got to do a good job of blocking things out. They're going to have a great crowd. They're going to be ready to play. They're not going to give up on their team. They've been in they've got 3 losses and just 3 hard fought games. They're gonna be ready to go, and that place is going to be wild. Glad it's not at night. I know what nighttime stuff looks like there, but I do my job when it comes to Donovan. I think Donovan's mindset will be okay. Some of the other kids that we've had that transferred from there, I don't think handled going back there very well. Not to mention names or revisit who or why or whatever, but it's an emotional thing when you are on a team and you leave and then you go back there to play. It is when you coach too. So you just got to do a good job of blocking things out, and I will do my job when it comes to Donovan with that this week.
Chris, whether it's because of some Mike Leach similarities, obviously he's got a history here in Lubbock specifically, or just sort of a general edge or chip on his shoulder. I don't know what it is about Dana Holgorsen, but I've always thought there was a kind of kindred West Texas spirit with the guy. You picking up what I'm putting down?
1,000%. They are, I think, it's funny. I heard Sonny Dykes say the other day, hey man, we're trying to be the most excited team to play, on this Saturday. And then I hear Dana clear his throat. I see Lincoln ban a media member. These are all straight out of what that era was, man. Some of us lived through it, and it wasn't highly publicized in some of these things. But yeah, I just but Dana, it's like when you listen to him, if you close your eyes, it's like, you feel like you're kind of listening to Mike Leach and stuff, and Dana, and I think people forget, because you said, he's been here 8 times, which surprised you. You forget there was an Oklahoma State stint. Then true. Obviously there's the West Virginia stint, and now the Houston. And I gather he's got to be talking about, when he's talking about former players and stuff, he's got to be talking about Tayshaun Henry or Keyshawn Carter, a receiver and a running back that left Texas Tech and went to University of Houston.
Yeah, he said he wasn't going to name names.
I know.
There's a pretty short list of options.
and Alex Hogan did this, and he's still on the Houston team. He'll play against you, on Saturday in that secondary. But unless I'm just missing somebody, those are the only ones that come to mind.
Yeah.
I don't get the sense they didn't let Donovan talk to the media this week. I totally understand that. I think Donovan was asked about it in the summertime, and he was like, "Man, I'm looking forward to it. Should be fun." I don't get the sense Donovan's a wired the right way and kind of smiles kind of kid. He's just a happy kid and just positive guy to be around. I think he kind of puts off just a professional, polished vibe, when he's just around. And I don't get a sense that there's anybody on the tech side of it that's there's any animosity. I don't get, so do I think there's going to be a lot of jawing pregame or anything like that? No. But, again, Joey has said it. I think, in fact, to quote Joey last night, he's like, I hope he throws it to a lot of Red Raiders just like he did last year. Now, obviously, you got to understand what I'm saying when I say that right there. This time it would be interceptions. Last year it was completed passes.
He threw a few of those too. I hope he continues with that theme.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so that's what. Yeah, we need a couple interceptions. But it is a storyline in this game with for a 2-2 team and a 1-3 team. There's a lot going on with this game because. The irony of Donovan coming back when you have an injury at quarterback and then a guy that's going to start that's a bit dinged up too, and it was Tyler Shuck's birthday earlier this week too, by the way. So he's apparently doing well. But the irony of the whole Donovan thing and your quarterback issues, and then the irony of Dana being on the sidelines whenever all this Mike Leach and Cliff Kingsbury stuff, for that matter, is going on is wild to me. Too. It's just spin the wheel on kind of what you're, and then I see they're going to have the pirate flag on the back of the helmet. Joey says that we're going traditional black helmet, red jersey, black pant. And who modeled this for all the video and photo stuff, but Antonio Huffman, who played for Mike, and he's got a pirate flag draped over him and stuff. And then I hear tons of players from that era will be back and attending this game. That want to be a part of him being honored and Cliff being honored for that matter too. And so it's just kind of, I don't know. Sports are funny, man. And you're the Red Raiders need a win, but there's all kinds of these storylines that are going on with this particular game that it's you can't make this stuff up. It's just weird.
Yeah, it's exciting, man. That's going to be emotional, I think, in the stadium. It's awesome that Coach Leach's family is going to be able to be here. Of course, you've got induction happenings going down today, which Cliff Kingsbury will be in town for, unable to be there for the game, but it's going to be really fun on that front. Can I ask you a question kind of out of left field before we leave this Holgorsen conversation? We're going to get to the Big 12 billboard coming up in just a moment. His name is always mentioned because it kind of has to be naturally. Each time that Texas Tech has had a coaching vacancy or has been ready to make a change. If there was a time where he was close to the gig, when was that? Or in general, has that ever really gained any traction that he could have been the Texas Tech head coach, Chris?
I think I think that the most legitimate here's some more irony for you, actually. The most legitimate opportunity for Dana to have been your head coach was after, I think, they moved on from Cliff and Matt Wells subsequently was hired. I think Kirby was very, and that's been well documented, but Kirby kind of was fond of, and I think kind of purposely wanted to go outside the family just because of there's so many dynamics and all these things that had been going on for years and all that. Obviously that didn't work. But I think Dana was interested, and there was legitimate interest from people inside of the Tech family that were interested in Dana too. Was it ever on the cusp of actually happening? I can't say for sure. I know that there was a lot of conversations and all those things. And I'll also tell you that, Neil Brown desperately wanted this job at that point too. He reached out, at that time frame. So those were the two. And these are the guys you're playing in back-to-back weeks. Again, the irony part. Yeah. You played Neil last week. You played Dana this week. But they both – I think they both love their time here. These are both guys that are, one was here a lot more than the other as far as Dana goes and all that. But I do know that Dana has an affinity for the University of Houston too. He spent a lot of time there, and all that stuff. And so it just didn't work or it wasn't a thing at the time.
Yeah.
And he's well paid, but that
Sure.
was the most realistic opportunity for Dana to come back here. But I just don't know if it was ever actually going to happen. There's people that wanted it to, and I guess there's people that didn't really want it to. And I don't know if Dana was one of those where he was at on it or not. I don't.
There are always people on the list that are like on a public like fan list or what gets reported that may never even get a phone call. He's always on that list. So I was just curious maybe when it was a little more serious or not. So there you go. All right. Thanks for that insight. And coming up dead ahead, a broader look at the Big 12 Conference. What is going down? We get to a whip around as we wrap up the week and send you off to Jones Stadium. Next on Locked On Texas Tech. First, today's episode brought to you by eBay Motors, and they've got everything you need to maintain your vehicle and keep that ride or die ride alive, or elevate your car's game to the next level of performance. Whatever you're looking for, they got it at the right prices. Superchargers, roof racks, LED headlights, exhaust kits, and accessories of all kinds to fit your style, whether it's speed, power, or design you're into. eBay Motors has got you covered with over 122 million parts for your 2, 3, or 4-wheeled baby. Just head over to ebay.com/motors, where you're going to always find exactly what you're looking for and at no risk because of eBay's guaranteed fit. Your part is guaranteed to fit just right every time, or it's your money back, keeping you burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to keep your ride or die ride on the road and moving your life forward at ebay.com/motors. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. Glad to have you along for the ride on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's Red Raiders and Cougars coming up Saturday afternoon from Jones Stadium. 2:30 kick. Not the only entanglement in the Big 12 Conference. However, Chris, let's take a look at this weekend's slate of games. A few interesting storylines. You're kicking off coming up tonight, as a matter of fact, with a pair of new members. It's BYU and Cincinnati. Cincinnati, a slight road favorite as it sits here this morning. But then you're kicking off the day in general tomorrow with a trio of 2:30 games. One of those Tech in Houston, but the other two, Baylor and Central Florida from Orlando. Central Florida, a little less than a 2-touchdown favorite. And you've got the 24th ranked Kansas Jayhawks. This is the American College Football Top 25. You've heard of it before. I'm not pulling this out of Bangladesh. The 24th ranked Kansas Jayhawks heading to Austin, Texas to take on the Longhorns. I'm sure they're ranked. I don't know. I don't pay attention. -16.5 is the number for Texas. Chris, is that getting any attention from you tomorrow? I know you won't get to watch it in real time, but what do you think?
Well, and you mentioned the game tonight between Cincinnati and BYU. That's the point spread that because I think that game's at BYU. Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, and Cincinnati's favored by 1.5 or 2 points.
Yeah, I'm seeing 1.5 right now.
Yeah. That had me going, huh?
Wait, who went to Arkansas?
Yeah, like double take a little bit, and then thought BYU played Kansas fairly well for the most part in Lawrence, and they're back at home. Anyway, I just thought that that number was a bit had me kind of doing a double take there.
They really love Oklahoma, I guess.
And this is Cincinnati, I think, is one of those teams where we're still trying to figure out who they are. So them playing at BYU, I'll watch that tonight. But this is the first one of, I think, kind of a month or ish long Thursday, Friday night Big 12 kind of deal. I think next week you have Oklahoma State, Kansas State, who are both off this weekend. I think the week after. I mean, so, and the Red Raiders are playing TCU here, off into the distance on a Thursday. So you're going to start to mix in some Thursday and Friday night inventory with your conference slate. The one thing that sticks out to me, though, about the slate this weekend, other than the Cincinnati BYU game, who we've just sat here and talked about, for the most part, all these numbers are fairly lopsided. All the home teams are close to or well into a double-digit favorite. I mean, Texas is expected to win by 17-ish over Kansas, which, again, that's a couple of 4-0 teams. Kansas keeps that close or pulls it off like the last time they were at DKR, look out. Kansas has got – they're well coached. They've got elite offensive skill, and if they can keep Jalen Daniels healthy, Daniel Highshaw, and I think Devin Neal, that is a scary trio of playmakers. I'm jealous from a Red Raiders standpoint of how good of a playmaker that they've got, and they've got really 3 high-end ones, which is just nuts. Defensive was supposed to be the question. They've been maybe a bit better than advertised. Baylor, Central Florida, this is a game, I think Central Florida played a pretty good game at Kansas State last weekend. Baylor is reeling. I think if you're Texas Tech, and this is the way I'm looking at this from, I think you hope Central Florida handles them, because I think Baylor is kind of like you are. They're trying to figure out who they are. They have how about this? They haven't left Waco, Texas yet until this weekend, the Baylor Bears. They have not played 4 straight home games to open up the season, and it hadn't gone particularly well.
No.
And specifically last week. But I think you hope for a Central Florida roll.
Okay.
And then you can go in and kind of catch them down. We shall see. West Virginia, TCU. I want to think that West Virginia could keep this close or play this same kind of ugly game 3 weeks in a row. I just don't know. TCU is way too fast with too many playmakers. 14-point favorite are the Frogs. I think that's probably about right. TCU may cover this one. We'll see. Marchiol made me nervous last week. He got Texas Tech with his legs, threw a couple of bad passes, made some great throws too. On the road, nighttime in Fort Worth, I don't know if they can manufacture enough offense to deal with all the skill that TCU has.
Yep, and then we got number 14, Oklahoma, hosting Iowa State, almost a 3-touchdown favorite. And as you say, man, these lines fairly lopsided outside of what we got tonight. Texas Tech opened as a -10 favorite there at the beginning of the week, sitting around -8.5 right now.
Are you like me in that? Yeah, I saw the Oklahoma Iowa State deal, and it's like there's not a machine that could be built big enough to measure my indifference on that game. Okay, because Texas Tech doesn't play either team, so it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. Like, oh, okay, y'all go tussle a bit. Let me know who wins. I don't know. I'm oddly much more fascinated in the Baylor Central Florida game, just because of the direct reflect that it has on. We all localize this or make it. How does this affect me? Right. I don't care about the Iowa State Oklahoma game. They can have it. Farm. Name it after a farm. Give somebody a pitchfork if they win it. I don't know. Whatever. Big 8. Yeah, have at it.
No, my only intrigue is just some curiosity as to whether or not Matt Campbell might try to assault another Iowa State scholar on his way to the locker room.
About the hot seat.
Yeah, I might tune in for that. I don't. Otherwise, no.
Triggered, Coach Campbell.
Not triggered enough to dial that one up. I don't get.
Should have got out a few years ago, dude. You had opportunities.
You could have been in Ann Arbor, Columbus. So I don't know where he might have been. Anyway, say la vie. That's the way it goes. Some days chicken, some days feathers. Hopefully, chicken's coming up tomorrow for the Red Raiders. 2:30 kick. Chris is there on the sideline. Wave to him. Say hi if you see him. He loves that. Maybe even a hug. I don't know. Respect the personal space. And Chris will visit with you on the other side for better or worse, man. Enjoyed it all week long. Thanks for the time.
Guns up, folks. Keep hope alive. Enjoy the weekend and all that comes with it, man. It should be a lot of fun, and hopefully it ends with a win. And if it does, we'll be here. If it doesn't, we'll be here.
That's right.
But yeah, keep hope alive, people.
You only get so many of these in the LBK, and we're already knocking on October's doors. So enjoy it while you can, and hopefully Tech does their part in helping us enjoy the outing coming up tomorrow. Thanks for joining us all week long. We'll see you on the other side of the ball game right back here on Locked On Texas Tech.